Did you know that the only truthful witch scale in all of Europe was found in the Netherlands? Probably not. Now you do. So witches were said to destroy harvests, to kill people, to kill animals, to create bad weather, all of those things. Now the Catholic Church is a very big reason as to why witches were persecuted in the first place. They said that magic was an act of the devil and of evil spirits. So it also happened that a lot of times when the harvest failed, when people died, etc., that it was seen as an act of God, which led to people looking for a scapegoat, which led to them accusing women of being witches. And doing that was especially easy if you didn't really like a person. You could just call them a witch. I mean, no one is going to believe a witch, so easy peasy, you can just get rid of someone. Now, to really figure out whether someone was a witch, there were several things that people did to figure this out. So witches are of course lightweight because they need to be able to fly on a broom through the sky, or they are sitting on these male goats and going through the sky. So they need to be very lightweight. How do you figure that out? There are three options. The most common way to figure out whether a woman or a man, also men were sometimes accused of being a warlock, of using magic as well. So men and women alike, most of them were women. So one of the ways to figure out whether the person was a witch or a warlock and use magic or not was to throw the suspected person into the water with their hands and feet tied up. If the person floated, they would be a witch. If they didn't, they were not, but then they also would have died. And also I would be fucked during that time because I float automatically, so people would be like, witch! So there was also another way to discover whether someone was a witch or a warlock, which was by having the suspected person walk on bare feet over hot coals. If they got burn blisters, they weren't a witch because witches could protect themselves against the heat. And lastly, there were weighings, which had the suspect on a scale, and eventually witch scales were all over continental Europe. But were they fair? No. No. Most definitely not. Except for one. The witch scale in the Dutch town of Oudewater. So it was a typical scale that was found inside the weighing house and the town hall of the village, of which the first building was built at the end of the 15th century, which was later on burned by the Spanish in 1575. And after that they created a new one in 1595, which only houses the weighing house. So nowadays only the weighing house is there, the city hall is in a different building. But anyway, the weighing house was weighing things like hemp, cheese, cattle, all those things. And now also people. The weighing was open to the public so everyone could see what the actual truth was. If the person, who were most commonly women, weighed as much as her height and body would suspect, then she would get a certificate that stated that she wasn't a witch. The person could then return to their village or town and had the proof of the certificate that they weren't a witch, so then, they could go back into society, basically. Most of the times, not always, but I'll get to that later. If the suspect was too light, then the person was a witch or a warlock and they would be burned to death. But that never happened in Oudewater, not once, even though thousands of people have been weighed there. Whereas in other areas, all over Europe, people were burned to death. And many of those scales in the specific weighing houses or in other places, they weren't fair because the men of those weighing houses, they were very corrupt. You could just change the outcome with giving them a few golden coins and you could just get rid of a person that you didn't like. So why was the witch scale in Oudewater the only honest and truthful one in all of Europe, and how do we know that? So we have to thank Emperor Charles V for that. He was basically the ruler of the area of the Netherlands in the beginning of the 16th century. So the story goes that in 1545 he saw a weighing of a suspected witch in the town of Polsbroek, not too far away from the town of Oudewater, when he traveled through the area, and he did not believe that she was so light. So he thought that there was something wrong with the scale or with the person that was doing the weighing, like there was something like a nail between the scale or something like that. He expected foul play. So he basically said to her, I don't know exactly what he said, but he brought her in his carriage to the nearest weighing house, to the nearest witch scale, which was in the town of Oudewater, or city back then, to see the actual truth. Now, surprise, surprise, the woman was not a witch and she was free to go. And Charles V rewarded the city of Oudewater for their honesty by giving it a special privilege, which was not given anywhere else on the continent, of weighing people and issuing truthful weighing certificates, which sets people free from prosecution. After that, people from all over Europe, men and women alike, they flocked to Oudewater to get their hands on one of these certificates. And every single time they returned with a certificate that stated that they weren't a witch or a warlock. But unfortunately, not everyone had the time nor the funds to get to Oudewater, so tens and tens of thousands of people were killed, brutally murdered to be exact. Now, the weighing house, which was destroyed by Spanish forces in 1575 and it was rebuilt in 1595, had been used until the 18th century. It was suspected that the last suspected witch was weighed at a witch scale in Oudewater in 1729, but that was incorrect. Research from 1825 showed that in 1754 a man and woman from Münster were weighed there, and only in 1773, during the time of the Enlightenment, the last suspected witch or warlock was weighed at the witch scale in Oudewater. Now, we don't have the full administration of the people that were weighed at the Waag or weighing house in Oudewater. What is interesting to know is that the weighing house of the Waag was let out by the city council to a weighing man, so he had to pay the city council to be able to use the weighing house. It was his job to weigh hemp. Hemp was very important in Oudewater. The nickname of the people of Oudewater was and is geelbuiken, yellow stomachs, because of them wearing bales of hemp on their stomachs, which they used to make rope, which was then bought by companies like the Dutch East India Company. Anyway, it was the task of the weighing man to weigh hemp, cheese, cattle, and eventually those that were accused of witchcraft. The person needed to be honest, but wasn't held accountable by the city council, so basically he could have done whatever he wanted. But he didn't. They didn't, because in Oudewater they were doing honest business. So how did the weighing work at the witch scale in Oudewater? So suspects had to take off shoes and outer garments, women had to loosen their hair, and everyone was allowed to keep their shirt on with a thin shirt over it. Men were then searched by the city messenger, and women by a midwife, and this was done to see whether they were carrying something that would make them heavier. Then they were led to the weighing house in bare feet, and two people would also check the weighing man to see whether everything was done as it should be, and then the secretary made a public certificate, het certificaat van wegingen, which they could then use to prove that they weren't practicing witchcraft and were not a witch or warlock. Now, the weighing was open to the public, which I already said, and because there was a weighing house and products that were weighed had to be paid, it also cost money to be weighed as a human. So they actually were profiting of the fact that they were setting people free. So it's a win-win, really. So the secretary got the most of the money, as he was the one that, would write out the certificate, and then the 5 other people would share the rest. Now, no one was ever charged with being a witch in Oudewater. After the witch trials ended, the weighing house in Oudewater was let at last. You see what I did there? Anyway, and it was a weighing house for cheese until 1925, and after that it hasn't been in use for its original purpose anymore. The weighing house in Oudewater was restored in 1938, and the big scales, which date back to 1482, are still found in the building. And nowadays it's a museum called the Heksenwaag, which translates to the Witches Weighing House. Now, there is also a little note, because not everyone believes the story of Charles V giving the city of Oudewater, because it had city privileges, the privileges of weighing people and writing out these specific honest certificates. For one simple reason, we do not have the original document or a print of the document where he basically states that. Now, it is possible that this got burned during the attack of the Spanish in 1575, in which it destroyed a big part of the city of Oudewater, and almost all earlier documents were lost. There is a copy from 1747 which states that Oudewater got a privileged position compared to other cities when it comes to its weighing house, but that document doesn't say the privilege for weighing people. At the location of the current weighing house, like I said in an earlier part of this video, the weighing house, it used to be the weighing house and the city hall in one building. After the attack, it was the weighing house in the newly built building in 1595, and then the city hall in a separate building. So at the location of the current weighing house, we know that there was also the city hall of Oudewater. So that is a fact. We also know that in the 17th century, the house next to the weighing house has an inn which was named the Keizer, or the Emperor. And we also know that people did come from far away to get a certificate from Oudewater, but we don't know 100% whether Charles V truly gave Oudewater the privilege of weighing people and issuing truthful weighing certificates, or whether someone else did, or whether these privileges didn't even exist in the first place. And in the town of Polsbroek, there was no weighing house. There was one in IJsselstein, which is a bit further away. So it is possible that over time the story changed a bit. You know, when you do that kind of exercise that you need to talk to someone, you need to tell them something, and the person needs to say the exact same thing to the person next to them. And by the end of the line, it's a completely different story, or slightly different story, depending on how good people are with memorizing. Could be the same thing. It could be that over time the story simply changed a bit and that Charles V went to IJsselstein instead. Now, did the certificate always help? In a perfect world, yes, but in a perfect world, people would not accuse people of being witches and they would most certainly not prosecute them. So, we're not living in a perfect world, which means that the certificates did not always work. So, for instance, there's a story of Leentje Willems, who was a local woman who fell victim to the gossip of neighbors. It's always the same thing. She wasn't scared to be burned in Oudewater because she knew that they were truthful there. So she had even requested to be weighed herself to stop the gossip and possibly prevent abuse, because it often happened that those that were accused of witchcraft were being physically attacked. So it did help for her, but it did not always help. So there's a woman called Altien Brouwers from Eibergen in Gelderland in the Netherlands, who had weighed herself at the weighing house in 1694, and before that she had been subjected to the water method, but she ended up floating. So she went to Oudewater to get the certificate, but once she returned to her hometown, she was not allowed to eat dinner with people or sit close to anyone. The reason for that was because she had participated in the 2 tests to, figure out whether she was a witch or not, which turned out she was not a witch, but they still didn't believe her. So unfortunately, Altien eventually left Eibergen, and people suspect it's because of the persecution from the villagers.